Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Yin practice. I'm not using a mat today, and if you have carpet at home, then that's great. If you don't have carpet, then I suggest having a blanket of some kind nearby, and then also a bolster will likely be handy or any kind of a fat pillow. And when you feel ready to get started, we're actually going to get started straight away in a shape. So we're going to come to a squat, and you might choose to have your bolster nearby for this. So as you make your way into a squat, then you may want to have the bolster nearby to make yourself a seat, especially earlier on in practice if you don't quite feel ready to be in this shape fully. Hands can be on the floor, hands can be in prayer if you like, and take your time to find your version of the shape. If the heels are lifted, that's not a bad thing, but if they want to be supported, then you may choose to slide a couple extra props there as well. And so take a few moments to settle in, and then once you do, if it's okay to close down the eyes, then go for it. And start to notice the body here. Notice the mind and the headspace. Notice the flow of your breath. And as you feel ready to come out of the shape, you can bring the fingertips down to the floor and then slowly start to lift the hips up towards the ceiling. And then from here, find a little movement, maybe rocking the body one way, then the other, maybe stretching out the torso, the spine. You can bend one knee and then extend, bend the other. And when you're ready, we'll come and find a dangling position. So feet can be maybe hip distance, maybe a little closer, further apart. And then from here, maybe a slight bend to the knees and then round the spine, let the head hang heavy. And straight away, you can find stillness if that works for you. If you have a little movement in you that you need to let out, then go for that. And find the expression with the arms that feels best here as well. So you can leave the arms dangling. Also, you can do hands to elbows. You can do earmuffs with the hands, adding weight to the skull, or maybe interlacing hands behind the neck. If you need a little more time, then please stay. Otherwise, bring the fingertips to the floor, come to a halfway lift position, maybe hands to the legs somewhere, and take a moment to lengthen from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Breathe into that deep stretch. And then from here, heel toe the feet a little wider apart, toes point out at an angle, and we'll come back to our squat. So you can continue to use your props in any way that you like. Maybe hands are together at the heart, and take a moment to lengthen here. Imagine that the pelvis is heavy, but that the chest is lifted. And when you feel ready to, fingertips to the floor, lift the hips once again, and take a few breaths. Find movement any way you need here. And heel toeing the feet back towards hip distance or wherever feels best. Maybe with a bend to the knees or the legs extended. Let the spine be really heavy. Let the head get heavy. Find an arm expression to enhance your pose here. And settle in. Gently releasing your arms if you have a bind. And with an inhale, come to a halfway lift. And pause, lengthen from the tailbone to the crown. Awesome. Release one hand, then the other to the floor, and then come and find a kneeling position. And check in here, check in with the hips. And then if it feels okay, just take a few rounds of cat-cow. And coming back to center when you feel ready. And then if you're using a blanket for today, then we'll fold it up into a long rectangle shape. So you can fold the long edges towards each other maybe a couple of times. You don't need to be particularly wide. And then give yourself lots of extra slack in the middle. And if you're using a bolster as well, then you can bring that just in front. We're setting up for frog pose here. So for frog pose, you can come first to a tabletop position with the knees on the blanket, and you have the extra slack so that as the knees come apart, you have space to move. And then the bolster nearby so you can lower the chest, the torso down onto it. So make sure you have lots of space all around, and then when you feel ready, you can start to let the knees slide apart. And then check in to see what happens with the body here. A few things. One is that the pelvis might start to come forward of the knees because the stretch might be a little bit too intense to the inner groin. So if that's the case, then you might choose to stay upright and you can pause here. You could also have your elbows like on your bolster or something like that. Check in with the feet as well. So if the shins are parallel to each other, you'll likely be feeling a deeper stretch than if the feet are close together. So you might find a place that feels comfortable, but also that you're still kind of working with the stretch. And then from here, just check in. Once you settle into the shape for a little while, the pelvis might start to get used to it, and you might find that the knees want to slide a little further apart, and that's great. When you do feel ready, if you're lowering the chest, then maybe you're lowering it down onto the bolster. But keep in mind where the pelvis is relative to the knees. And if the tendency is for the pelvis to slide forward, then just keep checking in and you can keep encouraging it back. And listen to your body. We're here for about 1 more minute, but if it's asking you to come out sooner, then go for it. Otherwise, stay in your experience and stay with the breath. And when the time comes to come out, I would suggest sliding yourself forward in space so you can bring one leg behind and then the other. And from here, you can push back up to a tabletop position. And you might take a couple of breaths wherever you need to be. The counter stretch that we'll set up is on the back. So if you're using a blanket, you can lie it out for yourself. And then just make sure you have the bolster nearby because that will likely come in handy as well. And you can come to lying down on your back when you feel ready. And you can take the bolster down to the right hand side. And then scoot the hips to the left a few inches, extending the right leg long, and then you can reach down with the right hand and guide the left knee across the body for a supine twist. And bolster is there if you want to rest it onto. And then you might keep the hand there as well to keep it secure. Left arm can extend, you can cactus, you can also reach it overhead, so find the expression that feels best here. As you're ready, gently unravel back to center. Scoot the hips to midline, and it might feel nice to windshield wiper the knees a little bit side to side here. If the bolster was handy, then take it over to the left-hand side. When you're ready, we'll set up. So take the hips over to the right a few inches, left leg can extend, and then you can use the left hand to guide the right knee across the body. This side might end up feeling a little different, so take your time. You can add more support or change the expression, find what feels best with that right arm. As you feel ready, gently releasing back to center and letting the hips return back to midline as well. And then a few breaths, find any movement that feels good here, or choose stillness. Awesome. It might feel nice to collect the knees in the chest, maybe a few circles, one direction, then the other. And then lower the feet to the floor, find your bolster, and then lift the hips just enough that you can slide the bolster underneath the pelvis. And find the place that feels the most supportive for you. And then we'll take this to legs up pose. So one knee, then the other towards the chest. And you can start to extend the legs up towards the ceiling. Always the option if you have a wall nearby, if you prefer to take that shape. And then this will be our rest pose too. So take your time to untie hair if it's tied up, or to add any layers that you need. And take your time to get nice and comfortable. And the legs don't have to be fully extended here. If you'd rather rest with a bend to the knees, or even the knees in the chest, then choose your expression of the shape. See what feels best for the arms. They can stay by your sides. You can reach them to the floor overhead, or you can reach the arms up towards the ceiling as well. Quieting down the body as you settle in here. Gently bring your attention back to the space. Wiggle the fingers and the toes, and give the head a gentle rock side to side. Maybe circling the wrists, maybe pedaling the heels, rotating the ankles. Awesome. And bend the knees, lower one foot to the floor, then the other. And just a counter stretch, just extend one leg long and then the other if that feels okay in your body. And take the arms up overhead, rest them to the floor. And let the body be really heavy. If the feet want to flop out or in, let them do their thing. And then returning the arms back by your sides, slowly rebending the knees. And lift the hips just high enough that you can slide your prop out of the way, and then roll on to one side. And take a pause for a couple of breaths. And with the support of the hands, coming up to find any comfortable seated position. Maybe sitting up off of your bolster. You can do cross-legged, kneeling, legs extended. Choose whatever feels best. And settle the hips and lengthen the spine. Hands can stay where they've landed or connect at the heart. Maybe bow the chin in towards the chest. And thank you for sharing your practice today. Namaste. Thank you for sharing your yin practice with me today. And again, my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out. and have a great evening.